Bhavya. Um, I will just put on my presentation for the audience. Yeah. So, friends, today we are going to talk about how to navigate this entire tricky market. And we are going to talk about this using fair value approach to investing. So, I'm sure a lot of you would have used Google Maps or any other map application or a GPS navigator to navigate through to difficult traffic conditions, right? A map application gives us the required time to destination. It helps us take the shortest route to destination, and it also helps us change our route on a real time basis. We are going to use a similar tool called as fair value. A lot of you would be familiar with P multiple or price to book multiple. Uh, so the way we look at this is what is a P multiple and what is it applied to. So the multiple is what we call as the fair value multiple, and it is applied to a core book value which pertains to that business, or a core earnings per share. And remember, what is this multiple dependent upon? So this multiple, which we call as the fair value multiple, it is dependent on four factors, which are returns on equity, growth in this value driver, risk-free rate of return, and riskiness of cash flows. So now, how does this fair value compare with the Google Maps or any other map applications? So just like a map, a fair value helps an investor understand what should be his potential expected returns in advance. It helps us invest in a basket of stocks or a portfolio of stocks which the maximum potential returns. Just like Google Maps helps us take the shortest route to destination, this approach helps us identify stocks which can potentially give us the maximum potential return. Third is, while we are en route, just like a map helps us tell us whether there is a lot of traffic on the route and helps us take another route, uh, the fair value approach also helps us uh, identify potential roadblocks. It helps us trade in stocks, so sell ones where the fair value has dropped materially and buy the ones where the potential upside is strong. So these are the details on how do we use this approach to navigate tricky markets. So we first compute a fair value based on the internal research, then invest based on the expected rate of return computed from the current price. So depending on market prices, if the market prices go up, the potential returns fall. If the market prices fall, the potential returns go up. We identify the right mix of securities to reach our goal. The idea is to regularly update this fair value, which helps us correct our course, as we will discuss shortly. This approach brings in a portfolio discipline. It helps identify the right levers for value creation. Like for example, for some companies, growth is important. For some companies, it is the returns on equity which is far more important. So there are different levers for creating value. It just helps us identify the right lever. So now we look at different types of companies which we invest in using this approach. So in this chart, for example, the smooth line or the blue line is the fair value of a company, and the jagged line or the red colored line, that is the market price. Since this company is seeing a rapid growth in its fair value, the market will never give it to us at a cheaper price. So normally you will have to buy it at a slight premium to the current fair value. But the potential return which an investor can expect to make is visible by the dotted line. So if you pay a too high a price, the potential return will fall, and if you pay a very low price, your potential return will be high. When you are buying bargains, these are companies which are popularly called as value companies. In such companies, the fair value growth is very slow, and the only way you can make superior returns in such companies is by buying them at a deep discount to the current fair value, and hence the total return will be summation of the fair value growth plus the re-rating, which will be visible over a period of time. We need to be aware and be very careful not fall into value traps. So the signature of a value trap is falling fair value. And if you are buying cheap companies or bargains as we call them, the only way to buy them is to buy companies where there can be some growth in the underlying fair value. So the difference between a bargain and a value trap is a bargain will have growing fair value and a value trap will have a falling fair value. So some examples here, for example, one of the largest MNC lubricant company, the business is undergoing changes, and the potential future of the business is bleak, because of which this company should trade at a lower multiple, and it can be a potential value trap. Next, we talk about real-time updation. So just like if there is traffic on the road, Google Map tells us to take some other smaller road or unknown road. Similarly, due to the pandemic, we saw sharp earning downgrades in some businesses, whereas we saw multiple or the fair value multiple downgrades in some businesses, which pointed out to structural changes in those businesses. So all this entire approach helped us navigate the entire pandemic fairly smoothly, and such that we have been able to come out with flying colors. So now we talk about something which is very close to a lot of investors' heart, which is what is the market valued at? What is Nifty 50's fair value? First, an important analysis which we want to present: fair value growth has a very tight correlation with nominal GDP growth. A lot of commentators have mentioned that there is no relation between GDP growth and stock market. We would say that there is a very strong correlation between nominal GDP growth and fair value, as we have seen historically. The only time period when we saw there was a divergence was in FY20, that is the last year, because of the cut in tax rates, which resulted in a one-time step change in fair values. This slide highlights that how Nifty EPS should not be equated to Nifty fair value. As we can see, since 28th of February 2020, Bloomberg EPS consensus EPS estimates for Nifty 50 has been cut by 28%, which makes a casual investor feel that Nifty has become far more expensive compared to Feb 2020 levels. But when we look it through the lens of fair value, we can see that the underlying cut in fair values is far lower at 10%. Even when we see in this graph how the markets have behaved historically, there is a very, very tight correlation between fair value and the markets. And if we look at the green line and the blue line, which is Nifty's PAT and Nifty respectively, we can clearly see that Nifty's profits have grown at just 9%, whereas Nifty has delivered a much robust return. Remember, Nifty PAT is low not because the underlying company's profits are low, it's because of the nature of index computations. It is because of the arithmetic issues, because there is a lot of changes in the index and some of the other issues which we have noticed over a period of time. And hence, fair value of the index is much more robust approach to look at where the index is valued at. Based on our analysis, index is currently trading at a discount to its current fair value. So some examples of fair value. A lot of people talk about absolute P multiple, that if a P multiple is low, it means a company is cheap, and if a P multiple is high, company is expensive. We would say it's all dependent on the 4 factors. If, for example, in this slide, we can see a premium two-wheeler player should command a much higher multiple compared to a budget two-wheeler player. and the market PE multiples are currently very close to fair for the premium two-wheeler player, but the budget two-wheeler player is cheap in relation to its fair PE. Similarly, we are talking in examples in the FMCG sector. A cigarette company should command a PE multiple of 24 times, whereas the foods company should command a PE multiple of 52 times, but the market is exuberant about the foods company and it's much more sanguine about the prospects for the cigarette company, and hence cigarette company becomes a much more of a value play. In this slide, we talk about an example of large Indian private sector bank versus a PSU bank. Clearly, the private sector bank should trade at 3 times the valuation of PSU bank, which the market is also giving it, probably making both of these companies slightly undervalued. And finally, this example talks about how an internet recruiter should be valued at compared to a large IT services company. And clearly, markets are giving very close to the current fair multiples to both companies. So I would like to end my short presentation with this key takeaways and summary. First and foremost, remember a high P multiple may not be expensive, and a low P multiple may not be cheap, simply because the high P multiple may be because either the company's growth prospects are good, or because it has a very high returns on equity, or because the company is present in a sector and business which has very, very low risk involved in it. Second, some of the key factors which we need to consider for judging a company as cheap or expensive is what is the sustainable earnings growth. 1 year or 2 years of earnings growth doesn't matter. We need to look at the sustainability of the earnings growth. We need to look at what is the ROE growth, sustainable ROE. We need to look at what is the riskiness of the underlying business. And then after we compute our fair values, we need to look at what is the price to value. One of the big questions to ask before making equity allocation is the market's price to value high or low, and not is the market's P multiple high or low, because index P multiple can deceive you. It's a fallacy. Beware of value traps. You need to understand whether the fair value is growing or falling. Once again, be very careful of index EPS growth or decline. In March, you would have made a perfectly wrong decision because index EPS was down 28%, markets were down 30%, and you would have thought the markets are fairly priced. And finally, remember, most importantly, equity is a high duration asset. It is one of the highest duration asset. If you are buying fixed income, you would realize what is the importance of duration. Small declines in interest rate can significantly increase valuation or the P multiple or price to book multiple for the same businesses, irrespective of no changes in the business. So equity valuations have a significant inverse relation with the prevailing interest rates. With that, I will close my presentation, and Prem, we can open the floor for questions. Kavya, I'm through with my presentation. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Vinay. I have a couple of questions from the audience. One, I know that you had examples, 4 examples. You had this example of a bank and that internet service provider. But can you just take us through how do we how do we work out the fair value of a stock, the arithmetic of it?
So the arithmetic is, if anyone is related to, has seen fairly simple computations. Like, for example, what is the value of an annuity to perpetuity? To a student of finance, it is very straightforward. It is the annuity, which is, let's say, a dividend, divided by the cost of equity. Now you throw in some more complications. What is the value of a growing annuity to perpetuity? Remember, equity is perpetual, right? So that the formula for that is you take the annuity, which is the dividend, and divide that by cost of equity less growth. I won't go into too much of details and complications, but this is the simplest way to understand what is the value of any asset, and equity is included in that.
Okay. Okay. Now, some of the things that you shared with us, have they been updated to the latest quarter?
This is up till June 30th quarter.
Okay, June 30th. So they did factor in the slowdown, the lockdown, and all that.
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely,
oh, fantastic.
absolutely.
Okay. Now, one this thing, uh, is automatic asset allocation a solution to navigate the choppy markets?
So if you mean automatic asset allocation, it has to be driven by someone, which means it cannot be based on simple Nifty P multiple.
Okay.
We have written a whole white paper on why Nifty P multiple can deceive you. For simplicity's sake, just think about it. Let's say 5 years back, if Nifty had only an FMCG company, the fair P multiple for Nifty could have been, let's say, 40 times. And today, let's say the Nifty is completely composed of banks. The fair P multiple for this Nifty would be 15 times. And then you will compare 15 versus 40 and you would think that Nifty is cheap. That's not how it is.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So yes, automatic asset allocation is good, but it has to be driven by the fair value approach.
Okay. Finally, I can't let you go without asking you what exactly is going on in the markets. Economy is down in the dumps. We don't know how long this particular thing will last, and markets seem to be having their own trajectory, not only in India but globally also.
Yeah, so Prem, actually, I would say that we are all seeing the rise in markets, but we also conveniently forgot the fall in markets. So the markets had first fallen very sharply, and then also it rose very sharply. The fall was because it was initially very difficult to estimate what would be the impact of the pandemic. But then, as things gradually became much more clearer, the market started to estimate what is the impact of this pandemic. And as we had put out, the the overall impact on market fair value, so Nifty fair value was 10%, and we had put it out 2 months back, 3 months back, and it continues to remain the same despite the incremental data which we have got. So the overall impact of pandemic on the market was 10%. And if you look at markets from February till date, it is down approximately 8 to 10%. So I would not imagine that the markets are crazy. In the short term, markets can be, it can be like voting machine, but it cannot be like that for a long period of time.
Okay. And now let me ask you one last question. At this moment of time, uh, is it a good market to invest a lump sum?
Absolutely. It depends on your horizon. I would first and foremost desist anyone to look at equity as an asset class for any period lesser than 3 years. And
Okay.
supposing if you have your investments for 3 years and more,
Mhm.
even today it's an excellent time to invest. So yes, we are fairly optimistic about equities.
And purely from a returns perspective, let's say for a 10-year perspective, which category of fund would you say? Multi-cap, large cap, small cap, mid cap? Let's assume the only purpose is to make money. And let's assume the person has high risk thing, like I said, long term, 10 years plus, and risk taking capacity is also there, meaning he has no dependence on that money. So it
See,
can.
yeah. So Prem, if the depend if the investor is a very high risk, has a very high risk taking capacity, and he is in the market for 10-year period, and hopefully he will not look at the NAV for a 10-year period, then small
Yes.
caps are the best product for him.
Okay.
But typically it doesn't happen that way.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for
Thank you.
alerting us on that particular note. Let's end the session with wonderful to have you. This is the first time I heard you, and I wish I'd heard you earlier. Okay.
Thank you. My
So
pleasure, Prem. Thank you. Thank you.